Eu sunt Marius, aici suntem la Upcult Radio. Astăzi sunt cu Skander și o să vorbim despre direcția pe care încercăm noi să o împingem în industria de fitness. Sper că o să vă placă. So, Ska, welcome.
My pleasure.
Glad to have you here. I'll just make you a quick... I'll announce the people basically who you are so they know who I'm talking to.
Yeah.
So basically Ska, as you can see, he's not from around here. He's from Tunisia. He's a pro basketball player, was. Also swimmer. Also, he looks very, very, very good, although he is injured and didn't train in a long time like as he wants. He's also basically a certified sport nutritionist, a strength and conditioning coach, and a PT. And nevertheless, he's a really good friend that we share a lot of in common, so to say. So I'll get straight into it. Your name on Instagram is basically the fitness practitioner. Tell me what's a practitioner and why did you choose it?
Well, it all started from one of my favorite people that I'm reading is like a probabilist and a philosopher. And he used to say there is no difference between, well, actually, in theory, there is no difference between theory and practice there is. And it stick to me big time. Because sometimes you might have a beautiful theory, smart words, whatever. If it doesn't apply in real life, it's useless. So being a practitioner matters a lot, even though sometimes we try to educate people, we talk, we try to read, learn. But if you don't follow through in practice, I don't see any usefulness for it. So practicing should be a staple for any person that is doing pretty much anything.
Okay, so basically because we both activate in the fitness industry,
Yeah.
do you feel like it's something missing, or like why do you think that the practicing part is something that should be mentioned straight in your name basically, or in the way that people associate you with something?
It's maybe something I wanted to be to a degree identified with, because social media is very tricky, because you start it and then you don't know what to do. You know, everybody's doing it, right? You know, you need to post, you need to do something, and then you get lost in trends. You know, okay, this topic is catching up, I will have to make a video right about these things. And I needed something that is very principle based, and being a practitioner, it's something that I actually identify with, and I wanted to stay with me like as long as I can.
Make it a bit more palpable for the people. Like we both are basically right now PTs,
Yeah.
apart from what other things we
Yes.
do. Tell me, how do you set yourself apart by being a practitioner from any other PT in the industry?
That's actually a very good question. I spend a lot of time learning things. And at a certain point, you figure things that it's extremely hard to put in practice. I'll give you an example. We work with people and we see them as levers, forces, or when you give them some nutrition diet or something, you see them as a chemical reaction or whatever. But then you have to turn all these things into people, right? And sometimes it's very difficult. You can get married to what works in theory. It should be done this way. It should be this way. And then you try it with people and they say, it's very hard for me to follow through. It's very hard for me. So being a practitioner is actually marrying science, a theory, and then people, and try to blend them together and make it work as best as you can. Sometimes you have to forget a little bit about the theory and focus on the people. And sometimes you need to educate the people about the theories, you know. And then once you figure out that combination, I feel like that's when being a very good practitioner shines.
Do you think that one can live without the other one? Like, for example, by practicing a lot, can you compensate for some lack of knowledge, or the other way around? Because my take on it is that basically, if you practice it enough and you're open-minded enough, and I'm not saying that this is the best course of action, so to say, you could understand a lot of the theoretical part, but you can't go the other way around. Because you can read all the research, you can read all the books, you can talk to all the people, but if you don't get your hands dirty, you're not going to get to the same degree of expertise, so to say.
Yes, I actually agree. That's the core of what a science is. Now we think science is someone with a white coat being somewhere in a lab. And actually it's not the case. Science starts with a guess. And guess starts with an idea or something you have encountered. You know, like I pick up this thing and I put it down. And I'm like, what did it make a sound? Why did it stay in the same place? And try to figure out what happened in between. A practice then follows the theory, not vice versa. So you do something and then you want to understand why it gave you the results it gave you, you know. And a lot of people did a lot of practice. And even nowadays, science follows certain things that had happened in the past. And now we're trying to understand why they happen and how they happen. So actually, I would say in a lot of times, practice comes first, theory comes second. Okay. It's ideal to have both.
Okay, that's your point.
Yeah.
Because if you go like back a few years when we had more free time basically, and we used to lose more time in the gym, our main meet in the week would have been basically the moment in the weekend when we'd get to work out basically legs together. Mm-hmm. But it wouldn't be just a workout because we'd sit around for like 2 to 3 hours, but in the gym because there would be like lots of conversations and the time would just stretch basically. Yeah. And this is where I think that we bonded basically because we found some common values in, okay, we can talk about a lot of stuff, but we can also like just shut up and put things in practice and like just go to complete failure on a set if it's needed basically.
Yeah, it's funny enough, it's like we earned each other's respect, okay, intellectually somehow, but at the same time we saw that both of us could just put all that on the side, and then when it's about to do business and just go after it and really like train hard or do something extremely intense, we just forget about the same thing, the whole thing. Put ourselves in a position in which we can do that as safely as we can, and then we go after it. And we somehow respected each other for that.
I completely agree with you. Basically, in this whole point that we've touched right now, my point of view was the fact that right now in the fitness industry, because this is gonna be the main theme of the podcast, like we're gonna start with the fitness industry, but we're gonna go a bit deeper into layers. The thing is that we've got lots and lots of people in it, and especially people that try to actually help other people. And my problem is not the fact that people wouldn't actually like work hard enough or wouldn't apply the right knowledge or anything like that, but it's just the fact that they lack the practitioner part. Because you could be completely wrong about what you think, but if you practice it enough, you would probably get to the point in which you'll see that point of diminishing returns in which you maybe would like to turn a bit around or something like that. And this is why I truly think that most people, and that's what my goal basically is, and hopefully ours, is to make them be a bit more in, basically just to take more action. And not only read about it, because when you talk to somebody, okay, like what's the most optimal thing to do X? And they just give you numbers or researches or like I did this thing with this one person, but okay, like let's apply that on 30 persons or like on you, but for 5 years straight. Something that's really, really, really easy to talk to touch basically. And that's my struggle basically. Making people a bit more action oriented, not just theory.
Yeah. I think you can even make the case for the opposite side of it. For example, a lot of people started in this industry with the following. They have a certain maybe issue. They don't like the way they look, or they're an ex-athlete or something, and they get into it and they fall in love and they practice a lot and they almost forget about the theoretical side. And people around them tell them, hey, you kind of look good, you kind of eat clean, why don't you get in this industry? So there is a huge lack of knowledge, pretty much, and heavy practice. And the problem sometimes with those people is they think the only thing that works is what worked for them. So they try to make a duplicate of themselves with everybody else, whether it's a man, a female, a taller person, a shorter person, it doesn't matter. What worked for me should be done to you, you know? So that's where I see, like, it's a problem when you only rely on theory, and it's only a problem when you rely on your own practice. So I think we try to embody both of them, if it makes any sense. We are at the core meatheads like everybody else. We try to live to we want to go crazy with things, but then we dedicate some time for us to educate ourselves and see what works somewhere else, or maybe even a different discipline. Like now you get into endurance training. We spoke a little bit about the Norwegian way of doing endurance. It's very interesting, like lactate threshold and all those stuff. I mean, you can practice as much as you want, but you need a trigger. So we try to represent both sides, if it makes any sense. Like we try to be mediators between the knowledge or the theory side and the practice side, because we put in the mileage, we put in the time, sometimes at a price, but we've done it. We have the scars to show for. We lifted the weights, we did the things, we did the right and the wrong, and we don't care about, for example, what's the new shiny thing. We're just looking for the thing that works for the person in front of us. So I don't want to see it as only be this or only be that. If you are there, explore the opposite side. And that at the end will make you like a much better practitioner.
And you mentioned something valuable, especially, and I think that's something that most people can empathize with, especially when they go to the gym and maybe work with a PT or anything in that regard. The fact that they go there and they get hit with 3-hour workouts, and that's something new that I've heard, like a 3-hour workout as a PT session. I'm like, but we're not gonna get into that. And just the fact that if somebody did something and it worked for them, they're gonna apply the exact same example on somebody else, not regarding experience levels, not regarding mobility, not regarding mental health, all that kind of stuff, which most people then, when they come to somebody like us, and we hear those stories, for us it's something like basically so hard to understand. And we do, but I just can't really empathize with somebody that actually gets to a person like that, and he basically makes that person to do like a 3-hour workout. Like, why? How do you? What's the cognitive process behind that? Like, how do you get to, like, we got a newbie, he comes to me, he can't do nothing, and I'm gonna go 3-hour workout for you today. Like, that's the most efficient thing for you today.
Yeah. So in this conversation, I would try to represent almost the opposite part of your argument, if it makes any sense, because I feel like most people will benefit from getting your perspective. And this is not necessarily mine, but I'm trying to detach and just give them a bigger image. I think that is not the problem, but I think in the fitness industry, in a lot of other industries, is proving your worth, And when you don't have enough to show for, sometimes you try to, it's like, I'm a trainer, I don't have enough, credentials or knowledge or results to show for. What I have available is time and somehow commitment to the person. So what I'm going to do is give 3 hours of my time to this person and make them feel as terrible as possible, just to show them that it worked, And a lot of people won't come back, but some people will come back and tell them, you know what, you killed me, I love it, So I don't know if it's the wrong thing or the right thing, but I believe, at least now, of minimum effective dose for things, because exercise or anything, it's pretty much like a poison, like a drug. The more you give to an individual, the more of a reaction you get, and you want to give people the least possible. If you go for a surgery, ethically, the doctor will give you the least amount of drugs possible. And that's what we should do sometimes. We should start with the least that gives you the most and then adjust over time. So I think for those people that are giving people 3 hours of training, maybe try the other way around, and you actually end up with probably a better session and more time, I guess.
Yeah. Overall, Sky is smarter than me, and he always is more correct, but I just try not to... I like being direct, basically. Okay. The next... but as people, if they're watching, could have already basically understood, there are no really like black or white answers with you. It's like basically always we got the gray area. Let's take some context. Let's understand, like, if you got a question for me, what's the context for it, and I might give you an answer, which might help you or might not. But it's never yes or no, or like do that or do the other thing, because it doesn't really work that way. And that's something that I observed that I started doing also, maybe because I'm influenced by you. But the motive is not really important. It's just the fact that my observation is that the more that I get to work with people, the harder it is for me to give absolute answers. And here I'd like to get into context and how actually context is missing from the whole fitness scene, so to say. What do you think?
What do you mean about missing context in fitness industry? I wanna give you as precise of an answer as possible.
Like, for example, the fact that we're still talking about the most effective exercise for growing your biceps. And 5 years ago, I would have watched that and I would be like, okay, let me go to the gym and try that. And now I'm like, okay, unfollow. Did you get my idea?
Yeah, I see. We all look back sometimes, let's say 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Usually we'll laugh at the things you said and things you've done, pretty much. And I think a lot of people are in the same position.
I'd contradict you there. Some people live there.
That's another problem.
Most fitness professionals live there.
Yeah. I think the context will be the following. Low barrier of entry.
True.
When the threshold is very low, the skill is very low, and the fitness is very tricky because you could look so good and sell anything, and then the biggest person, the best looking individual or the best jawline will sell you whatever they can sell you because look is undeniable, and the problem is there is a flow of people most of the time because even customers start as being very uneducated and then they do it and then they start learning over time, like a year, 2 years in. They kind of can tell which is a good source of information, which is a bad source of information. The issue is as they move forward and probably they encounter us or somebody else and they get to work with us, there are new upcomers that are still interested in the best biceps exercise ever created, and that encourage a lot of people to stay in that ignorance space. I don't know what we can do, but actually when we did our first seminar, there was an individual there thinking about getting into the industry, and maybe we can get credit for this because of this seminar, the person moved on, and I can see the individual on social media, and they took that path of learn more, practice more, and have like a holistic way of looking at things. And I think we can partake and making people more curious about evolving. So we can be a good context.
Okay, it's your point. So basically we just come back to the first point in which you just need to practice it enough so that when context arrives, you can actually be proof of point for what you're standing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I think some Stoic philosopher said, be the person you want to be. Don't try to talk about it. Don't try, be it. And then people will see it and they will try to, and because people imitate a lot, like we spend enough time at the gym, you're doing a certain exercise, even another trainer will see you. It's like, Marius is putting someone on two plays or something.
That never happened.
No, it happened a lot to me anyways. And maybe just out of copying, they end up doing the right thing. Yeah. So I think even indirectly as a byproduct, if we keep on doing a good job, at least we can touch on some people so they can do a better job. I think that's all we can do.
True. Mainly, when we're talking about context, the thing is that people look for short-term results, or at least they want why do most people want a yes or a no answer? Because if you know that yes, that's the best bicep exercise, you can get a big biceps, like 3 months. Or is that the best diet to lose weight? Yes, then I'll stick to that for 3 months so that I can lose weight and then I'm good. But if you answer with okay, what's your gym? What does your gym, how is it equipped? how is your schedule in a day? Could you stick to 3 meals? Could you stick to 2 meals? Could you stick to only 1 meal? Like, are you allergic to anything? And when you start getting into the roots of it, most people see the fact that it's a lot of effort into actually making something best for them. And it's something that's not self-sustainable if you don't do it actively, basically. Because you can't, for example, if you have a poorly equipped gym and you need to constantly make an effort to make out of a somewhat mediocre exercise the best exercise, if you don't do it actively, it's not gonna give you any kind of like magic results if you do it only once. And here it's where most people fall, because they do it once and they just want that result right now, right there. So that would be my take, basically. It's pretty...
Actually, part of why I like this relationship is that we are so similar yet so different, and we can we can bounce idea out of each other, you know.
Okay.
So again, as I told you, like, we create the context. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay. Also, you mentioned when I came from Cluj, the fact that you'd like to enroll in some more academic education. Yeah. Which is not fun, at least for me.
Yeah.
But it was an interesting topic because you wanted to get into psychology.
Mm-hmm.
The interesting thing is the fact that I always mention that, guys, the gym shouldn't be therapy. Like, yeah, you come there, you train, you feel better after that. But that's not therapy. If you need therapy, go to a therapist. Not saying that the person that you're working with won't listen to you and won't be there for you, but if you need therapy, you need therapy. The gym is the gym.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think that psychology plays such a big role into the whole creating different outcomes for people?
Yeah.
Especially in the gym.
Yeah. To give more context besides the gym, because, okay, I do my part at the gym, but I also have my nutrition practice, which means probably I won't meet with a person in the gym. We're corresponding online, or that's where actually psychology plays a big role, even at the gym. But at the gym, you don't want to pretend to be a therapist. Okay, sometimes you just need to listen. People will ask you for an advice. You want to be as partial as possible. But on the nutrition side, which is my context, why I would like to do it, people know what to do. Okay, you can give them the best recipes, the best diet, whatever, the macros. You're turning numbers into humans, and it can get very complicated. And sometimes it's the person, sometimes it's the environment, sometimes it's life. And I know at least 80% at times becomes more, okay, what went wrong? What don't you like about this thing? What your preferences are? Who is influencing your behavior, and so on and so forth. Because eating disorder exists. Body dysmorphia exists. I've seen people that get results still see themselves the same way. So I don't want to pretend to be their therapist and tell them, okay, maybe you should get it checked or something. But if I can probably pursue something related to psychology, if I can help to a degree, if I can combine both things, which I think they're very, very linked, I think I can provide even a better service for people.
In your experience, even as a PT, even maybe in your nutrition side, what's more complicated? Getting people to actually, let's say, learn to move, let's say, learn to understand their body and eat in a certain way, or actually putting things in such a way and actually packaging them in a way individually special for everybody so they can accept it basically and make it a habit, or just basically accept it as a whole?
I hate to say it, but again, it depends, right?
Okay.
But what I realized over time is that people have, okay, obviously personalities. There are personality traits. Some people are more conscientious. Some people are more, fill in the blank. But I realized there is also a training personality, if it makes any sense. A person can be extremely calm in the outside, very agreeable, someone. They show up at the gym and they want something a little bit different. And if you base yourself on how they behave outside of the gym and you try to duplicate that, you actually harm them. They need somehow to balance that niceness and that calmness with something a little bit maybe more aggressive, more intense, and so on. Others are the opposite. They're extremely agitated outside. They come to the gym and would like to, they want to move, they want to lift, but they want to be calm. They don't want to get like extremely jacked up or something. So I don't want to assume. I would just ask people like simple questions. Do you prefer more this? Do you prefer more that? I would expose them to that stimulus and see if they enjoy it, if they don't like it, how they feel the next day. And then you adjust as you go, So training itself would teach you a lot about people. Actually, training teaches people about themselves a lot. I'm pretty sure you've seen that so many times. A person comes in, I'm very shy, I'm very discreet, I don't like to lift a bunch of weights, I don't want to do X and Y. A month in, and then they feel completely different. It's like some sort of a mutation happens in them.
Yeah, it's interesting how the gym actually usually unlocks, and this is where again we'd get into the separate story, but that's the whole purpose of Upcult as a gym, of Upcult as a podcast, to basically bridge this gap, because the gym is a very nice environment, but it has its bad points, so to say. And for somebody like us, we are, as you said, meatheads, we can get past them because you get a pair of headphones, you get a hoodie, and you don't really care. Like, you don't look at the people around you. But that's as somebody that just wants to train. But as somebody that wants to help other people there and especially cares about that people. And you can't really get, let's say, a person that never actually liked sitting around with other 30 persons or something like that. And to just get them sit there and actually make them concentrate on yourself or on herself or on himself or so. And it's just a, how do you call it? It's an environment which basically, as cool as it is and as progressive as it is, it has very, very straight limitations, which are sometimes really hard to deal with. And for some people are deal breakers because they stop going to the gym just because they don't like the environment. Have you encountered something like that?
Yeah, definitely. That's why I think one of the hardest thing to do initially with a person is to make them feel safe in a way, or that they belong. And there isn't the standard behavior that you have to adapt to the gym so everyone accepts you. You show up there for a reason, But when a person has some limitations related to that, it's somehow, I won't say your job, but to a degree your responsibility to make people feel to a degree that it's a good space that you can. I've realized sometimes you even protect people, within your parameters, because people interact with others. I'm pretty sure you've seen even other trainers treating somebody else's client a certain way, and you feel like something kicks in, like a protection mechanism towards that individual.
Okay.
Over time you learn to domesticate that thing, but environment matters. That's why I really support what you do, because there is a certain type of individual that will come to your gym. When they meet each other, they will find a lot of things in common. They will teach each other stuff, and a bunch of things can just fertilize pretty much, and you take a lot of limitation or things that could stand in the way of a person staying and keep on doing it and being consistent and adherent, and you just eliminate that. In reality, you put something very pleasure pretty much oriented, because you make people compete against each other, but at the same time with each other. And I think in long term that's something that actually is very fruitful. So environment really matters. Whenever you can accommodate for people, that's actually something that works really well.
That is basically something that this is like something very, very hard to understand for most people, and for most people that actually didn't really get to experience the gym, or at least a personal trainer or somebody from the industry that really does the thing the way it should be done. Because I'm not saying that we do it perfectly, because everybody has its touch on it, and it's perfectly fine for everybody has like a bit of a different spin. maybe you were like a, I don't know, like a dancer, or somebody was a football player, and it's perfectly fine to gravitate towards a certain style of training, of communicating with people. But the whole idea is that everybody needs to understand that the gym is actually a safe place, and it's not only about, like the stereotypical, we've got the tattooed personal trainer with the perfect hairline which sits like this, and he's like, yes, I'm gonna sell you like a membership for 3 months, and then you got all the girls that look exactly the same and they look perfect. And then when somebody comes into the gym, and maybe just because she had 2 children, or he had spent his last 10 years building a business or anything else, and he doesn't look that way, he feels like he doesn't belong. And this is where the whole transformation actually kicks in, because it's not only about the whole six-pack thing. That doesn't even matter if you ask me. It's the fact that people actually get to the point in which they understand that, oh, it's cool to invest in a t-shirt that I get to the gym because I feel better in it. And if I feel better in it, I'll act differently. And it's just the whole thing in which people this sounds very superficial, but going from I'll grab my worst clothes to come to the gym to I'll actually invest money in some gym clothes and come there as, I don't know, like as a ritual, or as you go, I don't know, to the opera and you grab some specific clothes because you know that you need to blend in. The moment that you start doing that while going to the gym, that's also like a very important point for most people.
Yeah.
So as superficial as it sounds, it's a very big change, so to say.
Yeah, I mean, you invest in what you respect, and you respect in what you invest in. It makes any sense. Yeah. You meet an individual, for example, and you want to show that you respect them. You dress a certain way. You will behave a certain way.
Me wearing always joggers, like. No.
Yeah, but for you, it means something. You can go as low or as high as you want. You know.
Probably.
Yeah, but you can see it. You can see it. Someone starts. They don't pretty much care as they come here, but just go through it. And then you see them buying a Metcon shoe. You see them, changing their outfit. And actually, that's actually a sign for you. It's like, I'm here to stay, I'm here for more, and I'm here to stay. Yeah. And I understand and I respect what you do, but that's why I'm investing in it, So it's actually a very good clue.
Now, let's get a bit more into like specific stuff. You told me and the people that you're basically a sports nutritionist. Hit us because it's your account and it's your wife's account that I see all the cool chemistry stuff, which I don't understand, but it somehow relates to our stuff. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like, let's put a heart on it or something. So hit us with something like really interesting from that side of the science, so to say.
I don't know. I think it's very hard for me to decide for anything. It's like it's so wide and broad.
Okay.
But I think at the very, very basic level, there is something. I think the first thing when you encounter physiology, it's a concept called homeostasis. Mm-hmm. How, like, keeping balance, mm-hmm. and how the body reacts to balance, And then in homeostasis, there is a positive feedback loop, a negative feedback loop. I will explain what it means. For example, when you go outside and it's hot, or you exercise or something, your blood vessels dilate, okay? Blood vessels will stimulate sweat glands. Sweat glands will make sweat. Sweat will be a coating on your skin, and then it evaporates, and then it cools you down. So it drops your temperature down. Why all this happens? Because your actual temperature went up. Okay. When it's cold, your vasorestrict, so you keep heat from leaving your body, so it stays, okay? On the other hand, a positive feedback loop is something that is amplified. The first one, the stimulus is high. You do something to stop that stimulus from keep on going up and up and up. Positive feedback loop, it's more like, for example, a female giving birth, okay? You actually stimulate your hippocampus, and then you secrete oxytocin. Oxytocin keeps on the muscle, keeps on contracting so the person can give birth. So you exaggerate the stimulus. These are some things that actually two different examples, but pretty much in training, it's the same thing. When someone trains hard and you withdraw some of their blood, they look like they are diseased because they are out of the norm. But then you adapt and you create a new homeostatic point, So I'm fascinated about these things because I can explore them. And then when I'm faced with anything, I go back to the basics and see how it works. And that's how you make decisions. So that's why I think this is mind-blowing. I think most people can find it extremely entertaining if you know in which angle you can take it.
What do you mean by you said that basically you like the fact that you can take any other concept and go back to the roots and actually compare it. Like, give me something more palpable.
Okay.
Give me an example.
I'll give you a person that everybody knows nowadays.
Okay.
Elon Musk.
Okay.
Elon Musk is known for doing one thing and one thing only, besides all the crazy stuff.
Okay.
He's first principled thinker. He takes any problem, climate change, electric cars, you name it, space, and he goes back to the first principle that created the whole thing. How does this thing works? At the most fundamental thing. And he will start from there. He doesn't build anything from scratch. He'll go at the initial steps. What creates this whole cascade of events, he go back to the first one, and then he keeps on building from there. A lot of people start high up, not being aware of all the complexities before that. And that's when people are very facing a lot of confusion, and confusion extremely painful. If you don't understand the core idea, it's very hard for you to stand somewhere or make decisions, because every new wave will just disturb you. So that's why I'm actually trying to be a first principle individual. I go back to the root of the thing. Once I understand that, when I'm faced with anything, I can go back there and just make my decision.
And how do you translate that into a gym example?
Being at the gym.
Okay.
If you are doing that and you're not at the gym, then you cannot apply. So I make sure I spend time understanding the principle.
And then you apply it.
And then I would put my clothes on, show up at the gym, work with people, talk with them, try this and try that. And sometimes people don't care. And you have to change it. And you have to do something. I'll give you an example. How does it apply at the gym? Someone shows up and is like, I want this goal. I would like to squat this amount by this amount of time. Yeah. And you test them, assess them, hip, flexor, whatever. And I was like, I think the best thing for you is a low bar squat. If you keep on progressing low bar squat, your levers are fantastic for this. You will be strong. You will be amazing. And I was like, I don't like the feeling of the bar on my back. I just don't want to do it. Guess what you're going to do? You will go to the leg press, adjust it so it looks like a low bar squat, and then you make them do it.
And that's coming back to the principle of context, basically, in which we should just detach from anything. Because I love the low bar squat. I love squatting. But that doesn't mean that anybody that's coming to me and just wants to look a bit better and be healthier should low bar squat. And if they like it, if they want it, if they got the time for it, for sure. If not, there is no one reason the person should do low bar squats if they don't want to. And that's like, I'm just trying to translate everything in like just smaller, simple takeaways, because we're talking a lot here. If somebody at any point in time tells you that you need to do exactly one thing and one thing only, and there is no other option, it's probably misinformation.
Yeah. I learned something, and I think this was in economics pretty much. And it's a word called satisfying, or satisficing, actually. You satisfy and you suffice at the same time.
Okay.
So you don't do the best thing possible and you don't do the worst thing possible. You just do enough that combines the two, and you don't have to do the best thing possible. You just accumulate as many tools as you can. Okay. You have like a box and you learn something, you put
That's
it
my
in.
analogy.
Put something, I didn't know. Anyways, I will steal it from you. And then when someone asks you for any solutions, you show them the tools, and sometimes they will get too big. you need to nudge them a little bit. Sometimes you might keep some tools in and just show them other tools and you let them decide. Because the person needs to feel like they are involved and contributing in what they do. You know, it's like it's my job and it's your contribution.
Here's basically the moment in which most people, when they start working with somebody, you know, and they're like, I want to squat like I saw on Instagram. And then you tell them, okay, let's do it with a dumbbell right here, you know, because they're still not ready. And they're like, why? And they're like, you know, because there are rules to it. Once you need to start somewhere and then get there. But this is basically our role of educating people. And people that don't resonate with us, after all, like they want to gravitate towards working with us, and that's perfectly fine because everybody is free to do whatever they want.
Yeah, I think even like people, you know, I think the last time you made a presentation, you spoke about progression, regression.
Mm-hmm.
People hate regressions. Okay,
but they shouldn't.
I know, I know, but there is a big prerequisite. Even if you regress, you have to progress within the regression, if it makes any sense.
Yep.
Like even if we go one step back, okay, you don't understand, we're going 2 steps forward afterwards. But even within the regression, I'll keep improving you there. You know, so you have to show them that even though you're going a step back, you're actually building something up. You know, and I'm not assuming it's not easy to communicate to people such things. You know, because people compare a lot. Someone shows up and they look at the next person and they do something. It's like, why can't I do it?
Yes and no, because people compare a lot. But then when you look in a gym, for example, and I'm not bragging or something, but people that I work with look around and they asking like, why is that happening or why is that happening? And I'm never giving answers, but I'm like, okay, like this is why we are doing this. This is why probably they are doing this.
Yeah.
Like you do whatever you want with the information. And by the how things happen, I never see other people actually giving questions, because if they would, they'd at least get to the conclusion that, okay, maybe what I'm doing is wrong. Maybe it's inefficient. Maybe I shouldn't sit for the 3rd year in a row on the floor doing some kind of leg thing, you know? And I don't know what drives questions, but I think environment again, pushing yourself, but it's really not as common as maybe we'd think or we'd assume to be.
Yeah. I guess I don't have an actual answer for this because there are so many components we can just point into.
Yeah.
It's like, are you the reason? Are they the reason? Are they curious? Do you make them curious? Do you make each other curious? How come someone is interested and other person is not? You know, these are things I don't have an answer for. But yeah, it is what it is.
What's your opinion on everybody getting a coach, like especially coaches or somebody that already works in the industry? Because, you know, like most people are, personally, I have a coach. And like, why do you get a coach? Like, don't you know how to work out? That's the common question when I give this information to somebody. My perspective on it is that if I can work with somebody that has 3 times the time that I have in the industry, he does a great job, he progresses, he's in a point where I would like to be at one point in time, I can accelerate my progress. And it's not that I couldn't learn on my own, but I can accelerate it a lot. And I can switch opinions, perspectives, all that kind of stuff. What do you think about that?
I mean, decision fatigue is something that exists. Because if you sit down to write, because you say, I'm a practitioner or I'm a coach, and when I write something for me, it has to be the best thing possible. Yeah. Like I have to exceed my own expectation, how good of a program I write to myself. And that's extremely debilitating. You can't. You know, you spend hours and hours just adding, subtracting, having the same thing. You know, and decision fatigue is very exhausting. So you delegate.
Sorry for interrupting. You know, the best way that I program for myself, or that I used to program for myself, straight in the gym. Because if I do it on a paper and I'm trying to think it and to even things out and to think it like the whole week in advance, if I get into the details, I never get to a decision. I need to get in the gym and to like say, okay, that felt like that, just to get proper feedback, and then I'll just adjust on the way forwards, basically.
Yeah, so I think it's extremely useful, especially when you are short on time, or you would like. What if you would like to explore something a little bit more different? You know, like you've been doing things the same way for quite some time. You trust an individual, or sometimes your thought process align, and you would like to see another perspective. What's wrong with that? In the business world, it happens a lot. People delegate, or business owners and CEOs have business coaches and so on. Presidents, they have secretaries and so on. It's a common thing. I don't know why it should be any different in fitness.
I see.
Yeah, kings have advisors.
That's the first.
It's like we can go more and on and on, you know.
And also, when we're talking about having a coach and getting back into the practicality of it, it's just the mentorship part. The fact that people, again, like just putting the practitioner part back into the whole being a personal trainer or a coach or whatever you identify as. The fact that most people just go through the course, they learn some anatomy if they do, they learn some exercises, they work out for a year, and they're like, here we go. Now we're a personal trainer. Like we can help people. We're gonna get the Instagram likes and all that kind of stuff. But it doesn't really work that way, because basically from the moment that I met you, it was like a mentorship, and it still is. In the first years, it was more because I felt more of a gap. But I could learn a lot of stuff, and I could learn and apply it straight with you. And it was very, very valuable for me, and it still is. And I can say that, and I can apply that with most of my relationships with close people. The fact that I can learn stuff from them, and I can apply that stuff, and it helps a lot. The fact that it all works like a mentorship. When you're the guy that builds houses. And from what I know, the first year you can't do anything. You just need to stay with the experienced old man. And when he asks you for the hammer, you give him the hammer and you watch him hammer the nail. And someday he'll let you hammer a nail. And after that, you start doing stuff. And it's like in, what's the movie? Karate Kid? Or
okay.
Like when he just made him do chores through the house. And one day he hit him and the guy did the habit of squatting or something, and it all tied up. Yeah. So the more I'm sitting around the industry, the more I see the lack of actual practice in the learning process. Not that you can solve that like in a 1-month course or anything, but it's just an observation that I had, and I think it leads to lots of problems in the next phase of somebody being a personal trainer, basically.
Yeah. First of all, I appreciate the credit. That print that I had probably on you, I will milk it forever. I'll tell everyone. It's like I did it. But on a serious note, mentorship it's like, for example, in our case, it was never a formal thing, right? We find the common ground. I never told you I know X, you know Y, something. I was open to, and I'm very private with the things that I share, and you know that.
Yeah.
You know, I'll keep things for myself or my very, very small circle, and maybe that's the way I try to build value. I don't know. But it was never a formal thing. So you were open for it, and I was open for it, and then something clicked and it happened. So I don't know if mentorship should start with the mentor or the mentee, but I think people pursue things and try to perfect them and create something. And when you are on, let's say, you reach a certain level of knowledge, it's very tricky because you are subject to a lot of mistakes. Like you want to try new things and you want to change things, and you might be very wrong sometimes. And that's a big responsibility, knowing that someone is looking up to you, So you have to be careful with that. I don't know where I'm going with that, but maybe you can just frame something for me so I can give you...
Yeah, basically... I just see a lot of value in the fact that as a fitness professional, as a fitness professional, you can basically meet with other colleagues. And for us, the industry is something in which are pretty individualistic, because it's like a entrepreneurial way, so to say. And maybe we don't really like sharing. We don't really. It's a lot of competitiveness into the whole thing. But it's especially, and I told you that before, especially since I got the gym opened, I found a lot of value in getting people around, and they don't need to work for you. You don't need to especially like have some kind of contractual bond, but the fact that you can switch thoughts, the fact that you can switch opinions, you can just train together and do stuff together means a lot, and actually helps both for all the persons that are involved grow and get the best out of it, because that's how I think everything in any other context works.
Yeah. Now I see your point. For example, my frustration grew when I was playing basketball. Like somehow things were done a certain way, and I knew it could have been done better, but I never found someone just like to hold my hand. Was like, let me show you another way of doing it. Like you're experiencing, let's say, a knee pain due to jumping a certain way, or you have a certain body structure, certain volume of training, or you'd like to lift more, and you'd like to be faster or jump high, and you want to do them all at the same time because you're competitive, you want to do more, you want to do better. And people would just look at you and like, this is the way it's done. If you want to belong to this group or this place or this federation, you have to be this way. And doctors, I love doctors. We have doctors friends, but some grew and different. And I was feeling this crave of a person that is somehow above me to tell me, look, I've been there and this is how you can navigate things. And somehow it never happened to me. So I had to like climb my own thing and just figure out. And then over time, internet, thank God to internet, I learned from a bunch of people, a lot of good stuff, a lot of bad stuff, a lot of things that started as a bit shady and then disappeared, other things that actually were anchored in me. And I hope we can manage to be a person that could look and see a person somehow being a little bit confused. They want to go somewhere, they don't know where to start, what to do, a bit frustrated. It was like, hey, we are here. We are still trying to go somewhere, but this is how you can navigate things. And over time, they will catch up with you, and hopefully something bigger can happen due to that. So we need more of that, I think.
The main thing that I'd like to make a resume out of what you said is just basically making people take control and to start wrapping it up, basically. And for me, because I also played football for 10 years, like at a somewhat of a pro level, and I did that. I was athletic, all that kind of stuff. But the moment and like the turning point, actually, which made me understand that I have control over things that happen, is when I stopped playing football. I started going to the gym, and I also started playing debates. And this came in like hand in hand, because one was more physical, the other one was a bit more intellectual. And I wasn't really prone to be good at any of them. But the fact that showing up and just trying to get better and better and better and better and better made me at least see improvement from week to week to week to week, made me understand that you can control stuff. Can you control everything? No. But you can actually control enough so that you leverage situations towards what you want. And that's not to say that you can or I can basically make somebody understand how to think or like what should he or she do in life. But my main idea is that the gym with the right community and the right people around can actually push you towards a better version of yourself. And I think that's the end goal. Like basically just having an environment of people that can actually help you with no interest there, with nothing to get out of it, and just like pure value being shared just because we can and we want to, and we help each other and we share something.
Yeah. I think we all get into this thing for ourselves initially, you know. It's like, I want to be bigger, I want to look better, I want to perform, I want to lift more, and I want bigger muscles. And then at a certain point, like, I want to find something a little bit more, or even much more than this. What can I create out of this passion thing or this curiosity thing, you know? And then you actually start choosing training or the gym or whatever as a means to actually share another thing. Because at the end of the day, you start working out with people, and then it's not about the gym anymore. It's about way more than the gym. So when you bond with people, when you create a group, or when someone understands you, when someone brings a new perspective, when you create some sort of a small tribe, and it far exceeds and transcends just the lift or just the muscle, or just the thing, you know? So I think finding more, even the most simplistic thing of just looking better or lifting more, will give much more value to fitness or to the gym than what it is. You know, it's like, think of even a church or a mosque or something. It's not about praying anymore. It's about going there and finding certain people that you resonate with. And then people start businesses together, or they share each other's story, and then they support each other in hard times. So it's not about praying anymore. It's about something much bigger than that.
True. So I think we'll wrap it up. Basically, what I'd like to say in the end is just the fact that if you're looking for a personal trainer, just try to find somebody like Ska, because I realize this now, but basically we somehow that's not the right word, but we talked about practicing stuff, actually doing the stuff that we are talking about or teaching about. Also context, which means like basically critical thinking. Also, we had the psychology part, which means just the fact that it's not only about the muscles, like, yeah, it's cool to look cool, but let's also get some mental stuff involved. And never the least, the fact that everybody needs a coach. And by that, I mean that we need to keep learning. And by keep learning, keep applying, and the wheel keeps rolling, basically. And that's what I'd say makes, not that I'm in a position in which I can give a direct answer, but at least now I think this is a really good formula for somebody that can help you a lot in your goal to achieve better fitness, better mental state, and just a better version of yourself overall.
Yeah.
Tell the people where they can find you, because that's really confusing for everybody, and also me when you don't answer on WhatsApp. But just give them the details.
I think the easiest thing is Instagram, the fitness practitioner, or they can probably visit your gym page or something. They might find me there.
You got pictures there.
Yeah.
The really
or your
looking.
own.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it.
Okay. So you basically can help them in the gym, and also with anything nutrition related, blood work, hormones, in that direction.
Yes, correct.
Okay. So thanks for coming.
My pleasure.
Especially at the first episode, that means a lot.
I won't lie, I'm honored.
Yeah, and I think you'll like it, and you'll want to come back.
I hope so. You better invite me again.
Thank you. Dacă v-a plăcut ceea ce ați văzut azi, să știți că urmează și o variantă live în care practic atât eu cât și Ska, pentru că el e persoana mai calificată să vorbească despre asta, o să facem un seminar despre nutriție, care zic eu că o să fie mai mult decât puteți să găsiți în orice alt loc. 18 noiembrie, Upcult Fitness. O să revenim și cu alte detalii, dar notați acolo în calendar și vă așteptăm, pentru că chiar cred că puteți luați multe lucruri valoroase de acolo. În afară de asta, dacă v-a plăcut, dați un subscribe, like și vă așteptăm la următorul episod.